Good morning. So, in this session, we'll discuss about the next point under effective technical writing, that is related with the research proposals. In the previous session, we discussed about technical writing, what are the points we need to consider, their characteristics, what it should include. Then, among that, the main two technical writing types which are very essential for the scholars or students are report writing and paper writing. So, in paper writing, there may be project report, dissertation report, or some assignments, case studies reports. These are included. And what are the points one need to consider is discussed along with some real time or real examples of cases. Similarly, we have discussed about paper writing, that is article for conferences or journals, how one can start with these writing or these articles, as well as what are the points need to be considered while writing these articles. So there may be some predefined template by some of the conferences or some of the publishers for journals, and while writing these, what precautions or what points one need to consider is discussed in detail with again the examples as well as some articles. In today's session, we'll discuss about how one can develop a research proposal. Before that, we'll start with research proposal and what is the importance, those things. Then we'll see the formats of research proposal. Now, what is a research proposal? So, research proposal is a statement of intent, and statement of intent for what? It is to complete the research, academically prepared, academically prepared to complete the research, or it may be intent for the audience like peers, supervisors, examiners, guides. For them, this is intended. This is in a nutshell. Another way we can define it is your plan while doing the research. Research proposal is your plan. It describes in detail your study. So what study you have done, it describes in detail with considering holistic approach. Then decisions about your study are based on the quality of the proposal. So these are based on the quality, technical and non-technical or writing skill quality of that proposal. Approvals to proceed by the institutional review board. So these are generally approvals proceed by either institutional review boards or maybe some funding agencies, government or some organization. So these are approved by those proposals. Now, what is the importance? So because it is contract between the researcher or that means you and your committee. That committee may be the organization, institution or funding agency or any industry, because they are fund providing you some funding, and that's why it is referred here as contract. So one thing is it serves to protect the student or scholar or the researcher. It demanding additional requirements. So it serves to protect the student, scholar or researchers. So it demands the additional requirements of that particular research. Second one is it protects the committee from the student or scholar from delivering a degree of poor quality. A research proposal may be your dissertation proposal also. If you are applying for a PhD, so if you can apply in some of the countries or in some organizations, you can send your research proposal for getting admission into PhD or doctoral program, and or even for the postgraduate program. And if you, while doing that program, if you uh, completes or if you submit a poor quality dissertation report or proposals, then it may be possible that the institution committee may uh, may not give you the degree or may not award you the degree which is for which you have applied. So this is one point. That is why the research proposals are very important, and one need to take care while writing or while framing these research proposals. If it is an academic point of view or it is an funding point of view. So a formal definition may be like this: research proposal describes what you will investigate, why it's important, whatever you are writing in that proposal, why it is important, and how you will conduct your research. So these three main questions should be answered in your document, in your research document. That's why we are calling it as research proposal. It should describe what you are going to do or what novel things you are going to investigate, why it is important with the perspective of that particular application to the society or in any matter, and what are your methodologies for conducting that research. So these are the major questions which are described in the document which we generally refer as research proposal. And for that, the basic requirements are: it needs to show how your work fits into what it is already known about the topic. Suppose already there are some things for a particular application, and you are proposing some new technique, then you need to defend that how it fits into that particular application, and what are the novelty or what is the new thing in your methods or in your proposed system which differs from the existing solutions. So this should be included in that. What new paradigm will it add to the literature? What new knowledge or what kind of theories is added in the literature, in the existing literature? This is important while specifying the question that the research will answer, establishing its significance and the implications of the answer. So this is the first thing. It needs to show how your work fits into what is already known about that particular topic and what new knowledge will be added to the literature while specifying the question and research will answer. So these things one need to incorporate along with its importance and implications. These things also need to address. The proposal must be capable of convincing the evaluation committee. So it should be capable of convincing the evaluation committee. Whenever we are submitting a research proposal, there are some evaluation committee which go through our proposals and then decide if that the proposal has some innovations, some new things which are not earlier existed, or the proposed system has something which will enhance the working or operations of the particular system, or it may be cost effective, time effective. So these all things will be considered by the committee, and accordingly they evaluate and may accept or reject your proposals. So the proposal must be capable of convincing the evaluation committee. This is first thing. About the credibility, achievability, practicality, and repeatability. The research design. So whatever research designs you have proposed, so it should be new. There must be novelty, and it must be achievable, and it should be feasible and realistic. That means practicality and reproducibility must be there. Research proposals are submitted, and the researchers may not be like lifelong. We have discussed in the some sessions back that research is a finite duration. It may be of 2 years, it may be of 5 years, 6 years, 4 years. So it should not be a lifelong research when you are talking about some academic point of view or a scholar point of view. So here the same thing is mentioned, because when we apply for the proposals, it is expected that we will get some funding, and the funding may not be for lifelong. So therefore it should be achievability, as well as it should be feasible and within the time frame. So these are basic requirements of a research proposal. Now, what are the essential ingredients in the research proposal? One is the issue. That means what problem does the research addresses? So what is the new thing, or what is the problem which is addressed in that proposal? That is one need to check. That means the issue or the problem definition or problem statement. Then second is research design. How will the research achieve its objectives? So what are the design methodologies, and how you will work on that? So what are its objectives? So that needs to be considered. And then the last one is benefit. What will the research contribute? So how it will contribute to the research community or the society, and what new knowledge it adds to the literature, existing literature. So these things are very essential. Like what is the main problem, how you will progress that problem, or what are your design methods, and then what is the contribution of that particular design. These things are essential ingredients. This figure is referred from MIT OCW lecture series. So generally, if your research proposal is very good, it makes you. That means you will be known, or you will get some credibility for that. And for that purpose, what are the points one need to consider? Outline the steps in your proposed research. So one should outline the steps in the whatever proposals are being framed. So one should give these outlines of whole proposal. Then second is provide yourself with intellectual context. So you should consider intellectual context, or you must be of intellectual context to while preparing the research proposal. It must be creative. It must justify your research. Think through the experiments. So just now we discussed practicability of the proposal. So it should you should think of the experiments, or how one can verify those things, or how it can be applicable to the real systems. These things one should think. Anticipate potential problems. So this is very important while uh, doing any work. In fact, that whether you are doing research or projects, or you are writing a proposal, so you should list down or anticipate what kind of problems may occur. There may be problems of resources, there may be problems of funding, there may be problems of some equipments, components which may not be available on time, or there may be some technical issues. So all these things one should anticipate at the beginning, and anticipate a realistic timetable. So considering all these things, one should frame the timeline, or prepare the plan or timetable, and start working on that according to that. So if you do all these things, then you will be getting a good credit for submitting the research proposal, and it is possible that your proposal may get sanctioned. So the purpose of research proposals in academics, and generally it is observed that in academics the pressure of submitting the proposals is there, and often they have to write the research proposals to get funding. So for as an academician, one is writing the or submitting the proposals to get the fund from the government agencies or from sponsored agencies for completing their projects. As a student or scholar, you might have to write a research proposal as a part of your graduation or prior to starting your thesis or dissertation. So as a student, you need to write the proposal as a part of graduation or as a part of credits for completing projects, or to start your thesis or dissertation at postgraduate level or at the doctoral program. You need to write the proposals. So these are the purposes as academics. Now, in addition to helping you figure out what your research can look like, a proposal can also serve to demonstrate why your project is worth pursuing to a funder, why it is important that your sponsor or the government should fund you. So you should demonstrate that why your project is important, and then only the sponsor or government funding agencies will sanction you the fund, or they will sanction your research proposal. Or it may be educational institution or even the supervisor guide if you are a student, graduate, or uh, undergraduate student. So these things one need to consider that why your project is worth. So this is important for anyone, to whoever you are submitting. It may be a person that is your supervisor, mentor, guide, or you may be submitting it to some institutes. So institutes also provide some funding, or to the organizations, sponsored the organizations who are going to fund you. So you need to demonstrate or you need to convince them that your project is important. Then what are the aims of this research proposal? First one is relevance. So you must show that to the reader that why your project is interesting, how it is original, and how it is important to in consideration with all aspects. So you need to define the relevance of your proposal. So for that purpose, you must do the detailed literature survey, and from that you will come to know that it is novel, and how it is important, and how it is interesting, and how it differs from the existing literature, and what new things you are going to add to the existing literature. So you must define or you must give the relevance of your work. Second one is context. So demonstrate your comfort and familiarity with your field. So you should demonstrate your belongingness with that particular field through your previous publications, previous work. It may be related to publications, patents. So you should demonstrate. Show that you understand the current state of research on your topic. So just to mention that extensive literature review is very essential, and from that only you will be able to understand the current state of research on that particular topic, on the topic for which you are submitting the proposal. So you must understand that what is the current technologies or current state of research in that particular area. Third thing is the approach. Make a case for your methodology. That means you should write the methodology, design methodology, how it is standing separate from the all other proposals or all other existing methods. So you should make clear highlights about that approach, design methodologies. Then demonstrate that you have carefully thought about the data, tools, and procedures necessary to conduct your research. So, for completing the design methodology, you must have given some careful thought of what kind of data is required, what kind of tools, it may be software tools, hardware tools, or is there any requirement of procedures to complete the proposed research. So these things also you need to demonstrate in your proposals. So that's why the approach is important. Then the last one is achievability. So confirm that your project is feasible. That means it is doable within the timeline, that is within the time frame of your program of or funding deadline. If you are doing post graduation, then your project should be completed within a year of two years program. Or if you are doing research fellowship, so some research fellowships are of 1 year, some are of 18 months, some of 30 months. So you should be able to complete that proposed work within that given timeline. Or it may be possible that sometimes the funding agencies provide the fund with some stipulated timeline or with stipulated amount also. So these two things also need to be taken into account while uh, doing the proposal, and you need to work accordingly, and it should be achievable. So this is another important thing. So one is relevance, context of your work, approach, by which approach you are going to do, and the last one is achievability or feasibility. So these things are very important in your research proposal. Now, what are the contents of a research proposal? This is important. Now we're starting with actual what kind of research proposals are there and what are the components or the points one need to consider while writing it. So a research, so it is a formal document. We seen is a formal document that explains what you plan to research, why it's worth researching, and how we will do it. What is the problem, why it is important, and how we are going to progress. So these three questions, when you put it on a document, that document is nothing but your research proposal. Now, how these three questions, as well as the answers of these three questions, you put it in a document. What are the points or what are the headings one need to consider? That thing we will discuss now. The contents or formats of a research proposal vary depending on the requirements of evaluation committee and are generally provided by the evaluation committee or the institution. This is very important. Generally provided by the evaluation committee or the institution. So there is not a single fixed proposal format for submitting the research proposal. It depends on the requirement of each evaluation committee, and we discussed that evaluation committee may be your institution, may be some government agency, or maybe some organization who is going to fund. So generally these formats are provided by the those evaluation committee or the institution. For example, if you are doing your graduation or post graduation, and the research proposal format is nothing but your thesis format or dissertation format, and generally it is given by the institution, or the template is given by the institution or the organization, and it may include your problem statement, problem definition, then literature review, methodologies, then results, discussions, conclusions, and references. These things are included. So similarly, if a government agency is there, or funding agencies there, they provide their own format, and one need to submit the proposal in that particular format. And we'll discuss what are those points in general, and we'll see also some examples. So this is a general contents we are discussing here. Research proposal contents. So in general, the cover page should contain. Now it consists of two broad areas: cover page and main contents. So cover page should contain title of the proposal. So what is your problem or what is the need? So that title unit, it should be included in the cover page. Name, affiliation of the researcher or principal investigator. Generally, these words you will come across PI and co-PI. That is co-investigators or co-principal investigators. So PI means principal investigators. So the one who is submitting that proposal, or the one whose idea is that. So those are principal investigators, and along with co-authors like co-investigators. So their name and affiliation must be included. So first title, name, affiliation, then institutional affiliation, that is degree of the investigator and name of the institution where the study is will be performed, because after you submit the proposal and if it is sanctioned, then only you will be performing that in that particular institute or organization. So that you need to mention institutional affiliation, details of contacts, maybe phone numbers, email IDs, and signature of investigation. So these things are important. Mainly here title, name, and affiliations. The second content, the second part is main contents. One is cover page, and second one is main contents. And and this main contents consists of various points. Now you see here, first is introduction, then literature review, then proposal objectives and aims, design methodologies. While doing this, what are the ethical considerations one need to see, those things, how much budget is required, and budget as well as time, because we know that it should be time bounded, or within some finite time it should be. So what is the budget and the timeline? This timeline again depends on the evaluation committee. If it is a graduation post graduation program, it may be of 2 years. If it is a PhD program, maximum of 6 years or 8 years, like this. Or it is a research fellowship, then it may be of 12 months, 18 months, 30 months, like that. So this time is again vary depending on the committee. Then appendices and citations, mean references and bibliography. So these all things must be included in the proposal. And so this is again in general, and generally any proposal will contain these points. Now we'll see one by one. First one is introduction, that is need for study. So introduction is an initial pitch of an idea. It sets the scene and puts the research in context. So initial pitch, that is why this study is needed, or it is like an abstract also you can call, that summary of overall your project. And it should start in making interest to the evaluation committee or reader. And for doing that, what you can refer the questions like some which may be used to assess the significance of the study. So how you do that? Questions like who has an interest in the domain of inquiry. So for what purpose or the topic related, what is its importance, or who are in interest of this particular topic is it must be addressed. What do we already know about the topic? That is existing solutions, existing designs, existing methods. So that you need to put in the introduction section. What has not been answered? What not has been answered adequately in previous research and practices. So from the existing solutions, you can find out the gaps, that is what is not done yet, or what can be done to improve those existing solutions, or what are the questions those which are not yet answered adequately. So those things is must be included. Then how will this research add to the knowledge? So one is gap analysis we need to do, and the second one is the contribution. And we have seen these 2 points during literature review, also during the writing of research thesis, or during even writing the research article also. And for that purpose, literature review is very important. And from this only you can find out the existing solutions, that is already known part, and then from that you can identify the gaps, and from those gaps what can be, what you are going to contribute to that research community is you can write. And these questions must be included in the introduction part, or in the need for study part, or abstract part. Again, some of the evaluation committees expect the last two questions elaborated under a separate heading of background and significance. Last two questions means which? Gap and contributions. So what has not been answered, and how this research add to the knowledge. So these things you can put it in the form of like background and significance also as a heading, separate heading. Or in some cases it may be possible that the contribution may be the heading. So because every evaluation committee has their own formats, and one need to fit those contents according to that particular format. Introduction should also contain hypothesis behind the research design. If hypothesis can if hypothesis cannot be constructed, the line of inquiry to be used in the research must be indicated. So it should also contain the hypothesis, and if it is not constructed, then one should include that what are the consequences, or what are the line of inquiry to be used. Those things must be addressed in that particular introduction part. Then comes review of literature. Again, this is in some formats it is a separate section, or it's a part of introduction section. But this is very important. Review of literature. It refers to all the sources of scientific evidence pertaining to that particular topic of interest. So in whatever topic one has considered, so one need to refer all the sources, scientific evidences related with that particular topic or area of topic. It is important to structure this section intelligently so that the reader grasp the arguments related to your study. So you need to put it in proper structure, and so that the reader or the evaluation committee will grasp what you want to mention, what are your arguments related to the study. Those arguments are constructive, and in those are in related to the existing researchers, and how it is original, or how it is new or how it is novel in that particular field, that needs to be mentioned. So grasp the argument related to your study in relation to the other researchers while still demonstrating to your readers that your work is original and innovative. So this is important. If they find that this is just a repetition of existing solution or there is no innovative thing in that particular proposal, then they simply reject this. So therefore, you need to do extensive literature, and from that you should make identify the gaps and do the constructive arguments so that you should convince that your work is original and innovative. It is preferable to summarize each article in a paragraph, highlighting the details pertinent to the topic of interest. So, in some cases, this summarization or summary is put it in general form, or in some cases, you can put in each article which is related to the your topic of interest. You can put it in a paragraph and you can highlight the details of that, or you can highlight the contribution of that particular article, and then you can also write the gap in that particular work. The progression of review can move from the more general to the more focused studies, and while doing this or while writing this, it should be like of review of overall broader view initially, and then you are moving to that particular focus studies, or a historical progression can be used to develop the story without making it exhaustive. So instead of keeping it is either only focused or only in general or overview, one should progress as such that it is of broader view, and then slowly you are moving to the focus of study or topic of interest, and you should mention those uh, articles. Now, it should include supporting, while doing this literature review, you should include supporting data, agreements, disagreement, controversies, then how you are synthesizing the existing literature. And to make that, there is a technique known as 5 C's technique, and it may be kept in mind while writing the literature review. So, what are those 5 C's? First one is cite. Keep the primary focus on the literature pertinent to your research problem. So while finding out the references, you should focus, or your primary focus should be on the literature related to your research problem. So do not search in general articles or in general topics or sources. You should focus on that your research problem only, and accordingly you will find out sources related to that particular topic, and you must cite that in your writing also. So once you collected all those such sources, second thing is compare. So various arguments, theories, methodologies, and finding expressed in the literature. So once you collect all those articles, books, book chapters, and conference or journal papers, you should find out argument from each article. What are the theory or methodology described in that particular article or book, and what are the contributions of that particular article? That is finding. You should find out, put it in a tabular form, or you can put it in a paragraph form, and you can find out what are the gaps also, and how you can do, what do the authors agree on. So you can do it with these questions also. So what are the authors agree on? There may be possible that out of 10 articles, 4 authors are agreeing on particular design methodology, and 2 authors are agreeing on particular one methodology, and all other 4 authors are neither agreeing on that particular the earlier two methodology. So one should segregate these things. Who applies similar approaches to analyzing the research problem? Whatever research problem you identified, so who have applied what kind of research methodologies or analysis, or what kind of approaches they have applied in their work, that one need to find out or study. The next is contrast the various arguments, themes, methodologies, approaches, and controversies expressed in the literature, and from that one need to identify what are the major disagreements. So similar to the agreements of the authors, one need to identify what are the major areas of disagreement or controversy or debate among related to particular approach, related to particular methodology. So what are those major disagreements? One need to identify, and that is nothing but the contrast. Then critique the literature. Next is critique. So which arguments are most persuasive and why? That we need to or one need to identify. So from the agreement or disagreement arguments, what are the more persuasive and why it is persuasive? That thing one need to write. Which approaches, findings, methodologies seem most reliable? So you should identify which of the findings or approaches seems reliable, most valid, or appropriate, and why these are most reliable, valid, and appropriate, that we need to mention. And while doing this, you should also focus or you should attend to the verbs you use to describe what an author says or does, like the words like asserts, demonstrates, verifies. These kind of verbs you can write or you can use while writing the literature review. The last C is connect the literature of your own area of research and investigation, how it is connecting to the existing solution, existing research community or researchers, and how it is still separate or how it is still original or innovative from the existing literature. That you need to do in the form of connecting. So how does your own work drawn upon, depart from, or synthesizes what has been said in the literature? So you need to connect among these things. So you need to connect with the existing literature, your work, and still you need to address that still some gaps are there and what is your contribution and how it is novel or how it is new thing that we need to connect. And these five C's one need to keep in mind while writing the literature review for the research proposal. Now, while writing the aims and objective of research proposal, this is we have seen introduction, then literature review, and from the literature review, now the next part is aims and objectives of the proposal. The goal or aim is to give broad indication of what researcher wishes to achieve in this research. So in this proposed proposal, it should indicate in broadly that what you want to achieve in your research or in your proposed system. Then the hypothesis to be tested can be the aim of the study. So in some cases, to test the hypothesis is also one kind of aim, and objectives related to parameters or tools used to achieve the aim are generally categorized in primary and secondary objectives. So objectives to achieve the aim or to test the hypothesis or to achieve the proposed system, you can uh, define two to three or three to four objectives. Then the next part is research design and method. The objective here is to convince the reader that the overall research design and methods of analysis will correctly address the research problem. So how it will correctly address that particular research problem, that whichever design or methods you have selected, how it will correctly address the research problem, and to impress upon the reader that the methodology or sources chosen are appropriate for the specific topic. It should be unmistakably tied to the specific aims of your study. So whatever research problem is identified, you should convince the reader or evaluation committee how it will address the research problem, and as well as how these methods or design approaches are appropriate for that particular topic, and it is in line with your aim of your project that one need to address. Again, whatever methods sources used to conduct the research must be discussed in detail, including specific references to sites, databases, key text, or authors. These things must be given credit, or these must be discussed. There should be a specific mention about methodological approaches. So a specific mention must be there about your methodological approaches to be undertaken to gather information about the techniques to be used to analyze it, and about the tests of external validity. You need to discuss about these things, about tests of external validity to which researcher is committed. Now, again, what are the components of this design and method, research design and methods? One is population and sample. So here population refers to the elements or individual subject substances that meet the criteria for inclusion in a given universe. Whenever someone is doing uh, experimentation, so what kind of population or what kind of data is considered, that is that must be included. And sample refers to the subset of that particular population which meets the inclusion criteria for enrollment into the study. So there may be various kind of sections or data available, and from each of those sections, how you take out the samples and which uh, represents whole population. So that is referred here, population and sample. For that purpose, data collection is important and expected to give a detailed account of the methodology adopted for collection of data. So what kind of data is required, and for collecting that data, what are your methodologies to collect that data, that need to be given, or it must be included in that particular proposal, and which include time frame required for that particular research. It should be of soundness, or it should represent the soundness of the research. So the strength of the research with respect to its neutrality, consistency, and applicability. Rigor must be reflected throughout the proposal. Like, it should be neutrality. It refers to the robustness of a research method against any bias. So it should not be a biased one. Then your proposal should be consistent, achieved by adopting standard and universal accepted methods or scales. So consistency is important. Then applicability. It refers to the degree to which the findings can be applied to different contexts or groups. So therefore, rigor must be considered. Then data analysis. This section deals with the reduction and reconstruction of data and its analysis, including sample size calculation and all that. Ethical consideration refer to the protection of the participants' rights, obtaining informed consent and institutional review process. That means, while ethical considerations in various aspects, for example, if you are collecting the data, so you should give credit to that particular agent or website or to that particular organization from where you are collecting that data. Then if you are writing an article, or if you have used some article for in your literature, and you should or you must give the credit to that particular publication or the author. So these are ethical consideration, and we already discussed this point in the plagiarism section. Budget is again another important. When researcher prepares a budget, he or she should predict and cost all aspects of the research. So one need to consider all the aspects. It may be technical, non-technical, and miscellaneous things, and add them, and also add an additional allowance for unpredictable disasters, delays, or rising cost. That is what miscellaneous things one need to address. So budget does not include only the components or hardwares or the sources. It may be of human kind of source. If it is a uh, fellowship kind of proposal, then one need to give what kind of human resources are needed, or if he or research he need a research fellow, then the stipend for that research fellow is also a part of a budget. So those all things must be included in the budget, and those items should be justified, and you need to give it in detail that how many human resources are required, and what stipend is to be given to them for how much period. Those things you need to put. Then what are the probable components, and what are the probable approximate cost of that particular components, what are the other things you need to require while completing this research. So all those things one need to give in detail in the budget. So one can make a table and give all these details. Then come the last 2 points, that is appendices and citations. So appendices are documents that support the proposal and application, and will be specific for each proposal. But so generally these include the consent form that you are doing it on, or submitting this for this forum or particular this uh, committee. Then supporting documents, questionnaires, measurement tools, and patient information to the study of layman's language. So this is appendices include about the author's form, supporting documents, or it may be uh, consents form. Then the last one is citations. As with any scholarly research paper or article, you must cite the resources you have used in composing your proposal. So all those must be cited. Although the word references and bibliography are different, they are used interchangeably, and it refers to all the references cited in the research proposal. So as I mentioned while explaining the ethical requirements, so one must always cite, and one must give credit to all the resources one has used. Now there are samples of this. We will see those samples in the next session. So whatever points we have discussed till now, all those points, how those are incorporated in particular samples, we will discuss in the next session. So we'll stop here now. So in this session we discussed the majorly what is research proposal and what are its components, and while writing the proposal, what are the major points, that is what cover page include, or what are the main contents of a research proposal. These things we have just discussed, and in the next session we'll discuss about the some real samples of the research proposal. Thank you. We'll stop now here. Thank you.